A zodiac sign's temperament depend on their element. Each and every zodiac sign have their corresponding good or bad traits. In this video, we're going to be focusing on their toxic temperaments. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like for the algorithm. Here are some of the toxic traits of Cancer. You're too sensitive. Your symbol is the crab, which describes you perfectly, Cancer. For one thing, you tend to be rather defensive and even grumpy when you feel people prodding away at your protective shell. Like the crab, you also tend to scuttle to the side when faced with confrontation head-on. This may create passive aggression, which you will need to monitor to ensure that you don't cause more upset in your treasured relationships. Water is directly linked to emotion. A known negative trait of water is its turbulent emotions and moodiness, and you'll need a bit of escape from feeling it all so deeply. Here are some of the toxic traits of Scorpio. Like all water signs, you can drown in feeling, yet your mastery and control of these is something that other water signs simply don't have. Your greatest weakness is most likely your jealous streak. This translates to a desire to control both people and situations around you. You have an immense fear of being abandoned or betrayed. Because of this, you hold on extremely tightly and can be very suspicious of people even when they're innocent. Another problem is your sharp sting. You may not always realize how destructive your poison can be, and you might push even those who love you the most away. Here are some of the toxic traits of Pisces. You have a tendency to get addicted to things that are not good for you in order to try and numb your strong emotions or escape difficult feelings. You may seek drugs, alcohol, relationships, or other things that help you to leave the world, yet these things generally can and do become a great problem. You also have a tendency towards victimization. Because you're so helpful and caring, you may get taken advantage of and then end up blaming the other, even though it was your responsibility to set boundaries at first. When it comes to money, you're a sign that tends to not really want to deal with it unless you have to, and responsibility is not your strongest point. Water signs can react violently to feelings of jealousy, fear, or just to an overall negative outlook on life. Water signs need to learn how to channel all of that emotion and energy into something constructive. Each of these signs is highly emotional in their own way. You can't always tell what is lurking beneath the surface, just as you can't see all the way to the bottom of a lake. Just as water gives life, hurricanes and storms can also take it away. These signs have hidden depths, and it can be difficult to get to the bottom of them. Being emotional is not a bad thing. Water signs don't need to learn to rein in their emotions. Rather, they need to learn how to express them constructively. Here are some of the toxic traits of Aquarius. You're a little proud of your ideas. At times, you can be rather surprisingly rigid in your opinions, with your key phrase being, "I know." You can come off as rather stubborn. You have a tendency towards intellectual superiority, which can make you appear as a know-it-all, hating to have your opinions challenged. Fear of intimacy. The biggest thing you have to work on is your fear of emotion, which can prevent close, intimate bonds to develop. Here are some of the toxic traits of Libra. A people pleaser. Your tendency to people please can be something that eventually leads to resentment. So you may have to learn to put yourself first sometimes instead of the relationship. The relationship will suffer in the end if you don't. You can be flirtatious and indulgent. You'll also not tolerate possessiveness. Your perfect mate needs to be okay with your tendency to be flirtatious. You can be someone who is so concerned with pleasures and niceness that you can live life on a very surface level, never dipping deeper down into the muck. Your avoidance of any kind of unpleasantness can result in being seen as superficial or even shallow. Toxic traits of a Gemini. The twins also symbolize your dark and light sides. Sometimes you like to be breezy and surface level, but at other times you love to get deep and intense. It's hard to predict when these times will be, and it may feel as if you have different people inside of you. Your desire for change and excitement often becomes the weakness of a fickle heart. Your ruling planet is Mercury, or Hermes in Greek mythology. He is known as the trickster, and you certainly embody this archetype at times. You're often mischievous, playful, and naughty. Without your humor and charm, you would often be in a lot more trouble. The originality of air signs can mean that they may feel like they don't fit in. This may be in groups at school or work, with their family, or even with their friends. These are the signs that may not always stick with the status quo. They have a lot of ideas about how to change themselves and the world. They're not afraid to go against the grain. They're full of ideas. They have a lot of ideas, but have a hard time actually implementing them or giving structure to them. People with a lot of air signs in their charts also need to learn that they can't grow themselves through ideas alone. They need to put those ideas into action. They also need to learn that marching to the tune of their own drum is not a bad thing. There's no need to please everyone. They should always strive to actually create change rather than just dream it up. Being a little more practical and concrete can help air signs to actually realize their goals. Here are some of the toxic traits of Taurus. You're very possessive. You'll have to give your friends and lovers a bit of breathing room to do their own thing at times. Your main challenge as the bull is your unwillingness to adapt to change and the potential for getting a little stuck in your ways. You have a tendency to be lazy and indulgent. You may love the good life so much that you do the bare minimum of work that you may not even like. Some toxic traits of a Virgo. Watch out for a tendency to criticism, as you can overanalyze things at times, driving you into a state of worry about all the things you cannot fix. You can also be rather restless, and because of that, may be more anxious than many other earth signs. You like to be constantly moving. This can often translate into your work, where you like a variety of tasks. You may become too involved in stressing out about unimportant things that you never really let go and let life take its course. And finally, you may have a tendency to be overly critical of yourself and your tasks, which can be seen as fuzzy and pessimistic. Here are some of the toxic traits of Capricorn. You may be too caught up in the material world. You may also be rather hard and even stony or rigid, so to speak. You have an overemphasis on external achievement and material wealth. Though these things are important to you, try not to place so much value on them. You can be closed off at times. You're not a sign that opens up easily to love. It takes a great deal of time for you to trust someone enough to let them in. Earth signs in general are very practical by nature, which of course has its both pros and cons. On the one hand, it can be great to have someone who's level-headed and emotional. On the other hand, too much practicality can be stifling, as earth signs may appear to be too stiff. Sometimes that logical outlook may even appear to be too insensitive. Capricorns may devolve into pessimism. Virgos can be overly analytical and judgmental. Taurus can become fixated on their own practical opinions. And the downside of being grounded is being immovable. Earth signs may get stuck in their ways. They may become so used to a particular routine that they refuse to stray from it. This may be the case even if it no longer serves them or the people around them. They might stick by people who are toxic to them or who no longer bring something positive to their lives simply because that is what they've always done. Earth signs can be also materialistic. They work hard, yes, but for some, this is simply because they desire financial security above all else. They want the material things in life, and they will sacrifice other things in order to get them. Here are some of the toxic traits of Sagittarius. This sign is ruled by the planet Jupiter. Jupiter can also be rather excessive at its worst. This can translate as a love of partying, overeating, or simply going too far at times. The most problematic challenge you have, Sagittarius, is your issue with commitment. Being so seeking of growth and expansion, you often leave things and people that are in fact very good for you behind. You can be tactless at times. You need to work on this. As wonderfully honest as you are, you may lack compassion and hurt those who are more tender than you, or easily inclined to depressive feelings. Here are some of the toxic traits of Leo. Your greatest strength is also your greatest challenge. Your pride. You refuse to lean on anyone. You can cause yourself immense suffering and pain when there are many people ready to lend you a hand. Your inner pride speaks louder than words. You are prone to drama at times, which, when channeled correctly, makes you a brilliant performer. You have to be careful of not burning others when triggered. Sensitive types may find you rather intimidating as you roar and bellow, and it's important that you check your temper and moderate yourself in life. Here are some of the toxic traits of Aries. Your symbol is the ram, and boy, do you wear those horns well. Like this hardy and strong animal, you always charge at life enthusiastically and head first, with 100% of your focus. Whether it's a new love interest you are pursuing or a promotion you really want, you'll put your head down and go for it, no matter what stands in the way. Some call you stubborn, but you're not at all fixed in your desires. You can just be a touch hard-headed. Your challenge may be to give a little so that you don't have to keep bashing your head over and over again. Your ruling planet is Mars, or, in archetypal mythology, Aries, god of war. Whether you're a girl or a guy, you wear this archetype very well, carrying the spirit of a true warrior. But you don't always have to be on war mode. You don't have to be always combative and argumentative. Life is best spent collaborating with others instead of conquering others. Being too fiery can cause some problems. This element can make fire signs seem brash and impulsive. Fire signs have a strong dislike for wasting time, so they can also come across as impatient. Fire signs also tend to not be outwardly emotional and do not like to be seen as vulnerable. In times where putting on a brave face is the best course of action, this can be a good thing. But this fear of vulnerability has a downside, especially if they are desperate to appear strong. If a fire sign feels like someone else may think they are weak or they feel threatened, they can act explosively and aggressively. Someone who has a lot of fire in their chart is definitely going to come across strongly. I'm sure you want to know more about these zodiac signs. You can go to our website here on this card, or you can follow our channel to watch more videos about other zodiac signs' most toxic traits. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an upload. Don't forget to hit that like for the algorithm, and I'll see you on the next video.